welcome to The Acorn, the podcast that drops a little bit of psychoeducation so you can gain a better understanding of the therapy world and yourself. So without further ado, let's jump into our episode. Hello, and welcome to Season 2, Episode 7 of The Acorn. This episode, we're going to be talking a little bit about rest for the racialized body. And I'll be interviewing my girl, Felicia Fischhoff. And Felicia specializes in treating racialized trauma. Welcome, Felicia.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So I'm going to jump right into your bio, okay? So Felicia Fischhoff is a registered psychotherapist and founder and practice owner of Rooted in Resilience Psychotherapy and Wellness. This is a growing Ontario-based practice dedicated to creating safe, affirming space for racialized and marginalized communities to heal and thrive. She focuses on treating trauma, racial trauma, PTSD, family dynamics, and relationship challenges. And her work is rooted in culturally responsive and trauma-informed care, honoring the unique experiences of each client. Felicia has a decade of experience in nonprofit and co-founded a charitable organization supporting survivors of sex trafficking. Her passion lies in empowering individuals and communities to reconnect with their strength, break cycles of pain, and build lives rooted in resilience. She's also a devoted mom to two wonderful boys. Felicia, girl, can you tell how proud I am of you? Like, I am so
Oh,
proud of
thank
my
you.
girl,
Likewise, sis. Likewise. Honestly.
right? You are doing amazing things in this world. And I'm
Oh,
glad that you've been able to bring this to the forefront, bring your clinic out here. This
thank you
world
so
needs
much.
you,
Oh, thank you. We need each other.
right? Okay, so we're going to jump in and we're going to actually just start the conversation. Okay.
Okay.
So, in this political and cultural climate that we're in right now,
hmm
why should racialized people be privileging rest at this point?
I don't know if listeners out there have read the book Rest is Resistance by Trisha Hershey, but that is like on repeat on my audiobook right now because really it talks about embodying rest in a way that goes against the systems that
Mm,
we have to face on a daily basis. It's
mm,
countercultural, right? And so for those of us who are racialized and marginalized, we go through stuff
yep.
every single day and on a daily and consistently, in addition to the everyday stressors that people go through.
Mm,
And so, if we're not prioritizing rest, we're feeding into the system and it becomes a perpetual cycle. And
mhm,
so, in order to break the cycle, we have to do something different.
mhm.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so the term rest is resistance, right? And that
Mhm.
comes from that same book that you were just referring to,
Yeah.
right? What
hmm
does that mean to you as a therapist?
Oh, as a therapist,
Mm,
yes. You know, as a therapist, especially a therapist early on in my career, there is almost like a pressure to
mm,
always be doing more
mm.
or to be doing the next best thing or the next training and that's on top of that Black excellence pressure that
Yeah.
I experience as a Black woman, where I know that if I want to be considered as a thought leader in the field, I have to present myself with excellence at
Mhm.
all times.
At all times. Hmm.
Right? And so when I hear rest is resistance, it challenges me because there's this recovering perfectionist on the inside of me that wants to keep going like I'm some kind of energizer bunny that keeps going and going and going. But then I burn myself out and then I'm
Yeah.
no use to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
So if I feed into the system that I know was not created for me,
Mm.
then I just continue to feed into this cycle. And if I, as a therapist, am, sharing with my clients, you need to prioritize rest
Yeah.
in your daily life. And it's okay. You do not have to feel guilty to take a nap.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to feel guilty to leave the laundry for a bit and
Mm-hmm.
take care of you. Then I'm a
Mm-hmm.
hypocrite. I'm gonna like the hypocrite thing, you know? Oh, sorry. Like the hypocrite thing, you know?
We're used to going in and out of patois, so this is what you're hearing here.
Like we have to practice what we preach. And
Mm.
I think that's a big part of, even my mission for my practice. I want to be safe space for racialized bodies, for those that are marginalized.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to live by example. And so rest is resistance has to be an embodied experience. It's not just going to, not to downplay a retreat, because I love me a good retreat, but it's
Yep.
not just a retreat. It's
Mm-hmm.
something that we have to embody in our lifestyle.
Mm-hmm. I think it's interesting because even as you talk about this concept of excellence, Black excellence,
Mm,
right? A lot
mm-mm.
of us were like taught this. This is covert and overtly said
Yep.
to us. And it's said to us so early that we literally internalize this idea. And then we're
Mm,
we're trying to do, what is it? 110%,
yep.
right? But when you're doing 110% with all the things, how do you not burn out?
Absolutely. I have met with so many amazing women from Caribbean backgrounds and African backgrounds, my African brothers and sisters, right?
You're
And
hilarious.
okay, you
Right?
know,
But it's also South Asians and
and
it's
South
like
Asian,
Latin Americans. It's
yes,
all of us, right? Getting these kinds of
absolutely.
messages.
Yeah, and then we're in like our fields and we are operating with excellence and
Mhm.
still getting overlooked.
Yeah.
You know, we're the ones training the
Mm,
people that are getting the promotions over
mm,
us.
mm-hmm.
And so when we're constantly being refed the same message
Yeah.
over and over again, of course we're going to get burnt out.
Yeah.
Of course we're going to get tired. Of course we're going to get frustrated. I'm been chewing on a blog and I have yet to release it because it is so deep where we
Mm,
internalize all of this and then when we express it, it comes out as the mad black woman.
mm,
But even holding on to rage
mm.
is tiring.
Yep.
It's
Absolutely.
exhausting. And when we're not allowed to express it,
Mm-hmm.
of course we're going to burn out.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's unfair. What's
Mhm.
happening is unfair, right? And
Yeah.
it's unfair on a systematic level, right?
Yes.
So you know that you'll never be able to change the system,
Uh-huh.
and you're trying to then figure out how to navigate. And it feels like the message is you have to keep pushing and pushing and pushing yourself to these levels of burnout that you just like talked about, right?
Absolutely.
And if you push yourself to those levels of burnout, it still isn't enough.
That's right. And I'm no doctor. Okay, so let me make that clear on the recording. Okay, I'm no medical.
Yet.
So talk to your doctor or do your own research on this, right? But when we hold on to this stuff, how does
Mm,
that impact our bodies?
yeah.
How does that impact our health?
Hmm.
Pressure goes up,
Hmm.
migraines,
Hmm.
all of these physical ailments and diseases that racialized bodies are more susceptible to, there's a
Yep.
reason that's behind it. There's a reason.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Right.
And again, we feed back into this cycle because
Hmm.
when we're facing diseases, of course we're going to get exhausted and
Hmm.
overwhelmed,
Hmm.
right?
Yep.
And so
Yep.
that's
Yep.
It is
Yeah.
so.
And so there, it doesn't feel like there's an end to it, right? It's
Yeah,
like, yeah, it's almost like a lose-lose situation.
absolutely. And so then now, if we don't take a radical
Mm,
approach,
mm-hmm,
if we're not radical with our rest,
mm-hmm.
who's gonna rest for us? Or is our CEO gonna be like, "Hey, I'm thinking about you. Here's a vacation to Jamaica or
Right?
St. Lucia or the Grenadines," you know?
Right?
No,
Mm,
not for not
yeah,
often for us. We have to create that path for ourselves oftentimes.
right, right. And so even with that in mind, right?
Mhm.
What are the tools or resources that would be helpful for racialized people who are hearing this, for
Mhm.
them to then create rest for themselves?
Yeah, I think first acknowledging
Mm, yeah.
that we need rest. Because if we
Yeah.
don't acknowledge it and then we're going to continue to perpetuate the message to ourselves that it's not
Mm,
okay for us to do it,
mm,
right? Because I've been there.
yeah.
I have been there where I want to take a nap and I take the nap and then I wake up and I feel guilty.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so lazy. I didn't accomplish X and Y and Z. But really, that was actually the most productive thing I could do.
Mhm. And you're also not seeing that you actually accomplished A to G,
Huh.
right?
Girl, you better
Because
talk
we
about
ignore
that.
it. We
Yep.
ignore it, right? So we've done all of these things
Mm-hmm.
and, we didn't get the, X, Y, and Z. And then we're
Yep.
feeling that sense of, the
Mm-hmm.
guilt.
And again, that feeds into the Black excellence.
Yep.
That feeds into, just that self-narrative that we tell ourselves that we have to be perfect,
Mm-hmm.
right? So one is we have to acknowledge. We
Mm.
have to acknowledge our need for rest. And then I want to challenge those that are listening to redefine what rest looks like for them.
Yes.
Because if we are just saying we're going to work ourselves down to the bones to afford the Jamaica trip, clearly I want to go to Jamaica right
Yeah,
now.
that's been on your mind a little bit lately.
Oh, I need it. I need it. I need that. I need that for my self-care and well-being, right? So, then we save and we work ourselves to the bone for that Jamaica trip, but we're not
Hmm.
forgetting all the steps to get there. And
And the
we're
trip is 1 week. So you work yourself to the bone for 1 week vacation, which is lovely, but
not,
it's not enough. We
but
can't
it's
sustain with that.
no, we're
Hmm.
not constantly filling up our cups. So by the time we get to Jamaica,
Mm.
there's nothing left in our tank.
Yep.
And say, okay, even if we manage to fill up our tank, for those that swim, they go to the ocean and they swim to their heart's content. They do every excursion, whatever, whether it's resting on the beach, and they manage to fill it, say, I'm gonna say half tank, but really I wanna say quarter tank, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can't even fill it to overflow because
Mm.
your tank is so depleted
Yeah.
already.
Yeah.
If we're not constantly in a process where we're prioritizing rest,
Mm-hmm.
right? And we're not, if we're not redefining what rest looks like for us to be our most rested version of ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
then we're just operating on quarter tank to empty.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
We're not our best selves anyway, for nobody, for our family. And the thing is, this impacts everyone around us,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I was
right?
going to ask that next, right? Because it's like we have kids and our kids are watching everything we do. Like we watched our parents, right? And so it goes down, it's the trickle down effect, right? And
Exactly.
so when your boys are watching you, what do you want them to see?
Oh gosh. I want them to see that it is okay to take care of themselves.
Mm, mm-hmm,
Because I know that life is life. I will not always be here to encourage them. So I
Mm-hmm.
want it to be an embodied reality where it's like, it's okay for us to have fun.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay for us to sleep if we're tired.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what it is about kids and sleep and how they don't want to sleep. I'll just give a quick little funny moment where the other day my eldest was like, "Mom, I can't sleep." I said, "Wow, what a problem to have." And he's like, "What?" I said, "I wish I had that problem because right now my bed is calling me."
Mm-hmm.
I was packing lunches at the time, so I want to go to my bed right now. You're so lucky. Go to sleep. Right? But even as children, they have a hesitancy to rest.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so I want them to know that they are already excellent.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That they are already enough.
Yeah.
That they have nothing to prove to nobody.
It's right there, what you just said. They have nothing to prove to anyone.
Right? One thing I've been saying to my clients over and over again is, what does your inner child need
Mm. Mm-hmm.
right now? And I can tell you,
Mm.
my inner child, let me personalize it. My inner child needs rest.
Yeah. Yeah. She needs to be taken care of. She needs to be seen and heard and understood and taken care of.
Yeah. And
Mm-hmm.
if we were to take the position of the bigger sister
Mm.
or the bigger brother, and
Mm-hmm.
we were looking at our inner child and
Mm.
how tired and burdened they feel,
Mm.
what would we do or what would we say to that little boy or that little girl?
Mm.
I could tell you, like, I think at least 80% of us would say, why don't you just take a break? It's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Why don't you play a little bit? Or why don't you take a nap? And
Mm-hmm.
then you can start, while, this little child is trying to build this tower,
Mm-hmm.
blocks, and it keeps knocking over, and they're getting frustrated and they're getting overwhelmed, and you're
Mm-hmm.
watching them.
Yeah.
We're not going to be like, you need to do it. You need to work harder. You're clearly not doing something right. But yet we feed ourselves these narratives every day.
Mm-hmm.
Really, our inner child is just tired and needs some gentleness and some
Mm-hmm.
love.
Yeah. They just need that gentleness and love.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, I think it's interesting because it's like the inner critic, the one that says, you have to do it. You should do
Mhm.
it. You must do it. You're not doing this right. All of
Mhm.
these things, right? And yet, I love your approach around having that big brother, big sister, big cousin, voice,
Mm.
right? That says the friend voice that says it's okay to take a rest. I
Yeah,
see that it's so much for you right now. There's a lot on your plate right now,
yeah.
right? Imagine if we treated ourselves to hearing that voice the way that we offer it to each other so easily. We'd
That's it.
never talk to other people the way that we do to ourselves.
Never. But that is one technique that I use with my clients. I like to help them to externalize
Mm,
their experience because often when I help them do that, they're so gracious. Oh, no, I would never say that to a friend if they were going through the same thing. It's not their fault, or they do need a rest. Like nobody's meant to work like that. And I'm like, okay, let's
mhm.
bring that back in. Can you tell yourself that? And they're like, oh, I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, that's where we're going with that.
Oh yeah. It's true. That's why people see us, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Because we can't see our own blind spots.
Yeah.
And we need someone to gently, but also not timidly,
Hmm.
pull out those blind spots and
Hmm.
allow us to embrace ourselves again,
Yeah.
but with love, with tenderness, with compassion. And that is not weakness.
Mm-hmm.
That is actually strength.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like I'm going on a tangent now, but hey, let's
No,
go.
that's beautiful. That's beautiful. And so if you had one takeaway for the listeners, what would it be?
I would say take a look inward. And as you're taking a look inward, I want you to recognize your inner child.
Mm,
And I want you to approach this inner child as you're the big brother or the big sister. See and ask this inner child, what is it that you need right now?
mm,
And give them the permission
mhm.
to take rest because
Yeah.
it is the most productive thing you can do. And it's countercultural and it's resistance.
Mhm. Beautifully said. Felicia, thank you for coming on the podcast and talking about this very important topic.
My
Right?
pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Of course. And for anyone who wants to find Felicia, you can check her out at www.rootedinresilience.ca.
Yeah.
Take care. Bye. Well, this has been another episode of The Acorn. Remember, the content in these podcast episodes are for educational, informational, and entertainment purposes only. Disclaimer: anything said in this podcast should not be considered as treatment, professional consultation, advice, clinical instruction or assessment, or any other mental health replacement. Listening to this podcast does not create a therapist-client relationship between you and the podcast host. Always seek the advice of your own mental health provider regarding any questions or concerns you may have about your mental health needs. Also, if you need immediate help, contact your mental health provider or call 911. Take care.